The last thing you ever expect to hear up at your quiet mountain cabin is a gunshot. That's just the truth. I mean, yeah, I spent 15 years of my life running into gunfire, but never in a million years did I picture myself hearing a round go off up here where the loudest noise is supposed to be the wind whistling through the pines or a couple of blue jays fighting over a crust of bread. But there it was, a sharp, cracking gunshot, and the next sound was my best friend Dave screaming my name in a way I'll never forget. It split the silence like an axe, and before my mind could even make sense of it, I was already moving, really running on pure instinct. So I'm Alex, and I'll tell you straight up, 15 years leading a SWAT team in a big city that leaves a mark on a person. All those raids and warrants and adrenaline dumps, the constant pressure to keep people safe, to make the split-second call between life and death. You can't just rinse that off. But this cabin, this place was supposed to be my great escape. Just a little crooked pine fortress 3 hours from the nearest siren, no boss, no radio, just peace. Or that's what I thought anyway. But you know how it goes, trouble finds you even out here. And most of the time it shows up dressed like Barbara Jenkins, president of the local HOA. You want to talk about someone drunk on power? Well, she ran our little patch of woods like she was queen of the whole county. First thing she did when I moved in was tell me my truck was an eyesore. Then she decided my firewood pile was a harborage for vermin. And for good measure, she once tried to fine me because my deck stain was half a shade too dark for her liking. It was endless little paper notices, icy glares, every bit of her authority pressed right up in your face just because she could. At first I tried to play it cool. Smile, nod, ignore her. I was following every rule written down, wasn't going to let some overzealous neighbor get to me. But Barbara, she didn't care about rules, she cared about control. And the moment she realized I wasn't going to roll over well, she turned from annoying to dangerous. That gunshot. That was Barbara. She came storming onto my property, waving a revolver around, shouting about suspicious activity. We'd been working on Dave's busted old ATV, laughing too loud maybe, but nothing worth all this drama. Next thing I know, Dave's down clutching his thigh blood everywhere. Barbara's hands shaking as she tries to spin her story. I was threatened. I was scared. I didn't mean to. All that while I'm patching up my friend, calling 911, running through every ounce of training I ever had just to keep him alive. Let me back up a sec, because this is where things start getting crazy. See, the sheriff's deputy who finally showed up, a kid named Miller, fresh-faced, not a bad guy, just in way over his head. He listens to Barbara's story, and suddenly she's not a shooter anymore. She's the victim. I'm the big, scary outsider, the SWAT guy, with a city badge, and she's the poor lady just trying to keep order. He tells me it's complicated, says they'll let the DA sort it out, and Barbara goes home to sleep in her own bed. Yeah, that happened. The next day she sends out an email to the whole HOA, paints me and Dave as violent threats, says she had to defend herself against two aggressive men, claims she accidentally fired her gun. She uses that fear twists. It turns the whole neighborhood against me, and for the first time in a long, long while, I feel powerless. But you know, there's this thing about people who spend their lives dealing with bad guys. We don't give up. And I wasn't about to let my friend take a bullet and let this woman walk away. That night in the hospital, looking at Dave, pale, sweating, more angry than hurt, he grabs my arm and says, "Don't let her get away with this, Alex." And I promise him, that's when the mission starts. Now, if you've ever been in law enforcement, you know the real work isn't always the raid, it's the prep. I treated that HOA like any other hostile organization. My kitchen table turned into a command center, financial records, public documents. HOA, bylaws, meeting minutes, you name it. I sent certified letters, demanded 5 years of financials, and I started talking quietly to neighbors who'd been here longer than me. That's how I met George, the guy down the hill who collects those tacky little garden gnomes. Turns out he'd been fined for one being 2 inches too tall. He told me about community projects nobody ever saw, about $30,000 retaining walls that looked like they were built by children, about assessments and fines and money that just vanished. And then he mentioned Carol, the former treasurer, a quiet lady whose roses were mysteriously poisoned right after she started asking questions. That's your twist, Carol. She'd quit the board after getting buried in fines for nonsense infractions, but she kept the receipts. When I sat with her on her porch, careful not to push too hard, she finally opened up. She had copies of old invoices, bank statements, and she'd always suspected something shady. I showed her what I'd found a shell company called Mountain View Maintenance LLC, getting thousands from the HOA for repairs, but registered to Barbara's brother-in-law. That was the missing link. Suddenly, Carol wasn't scared, she was mad. With her files and my digging, the whole ugly picture came together. Barbara, her VP, and one other board member had cooked up this scheme, fake contracts, inflated bills, funneling money into their own pockets. Over $250,000 stolen from their neighbors, covered up by threats and lies. And the shooting, that wasn't about noise or feeling threatened, that was Barbara trying to scare off the only person she couldn't control. So here's where it flips. I put everything together, a fat dossier, corporate records, bank statements, timelines, Carol's affidavit, photos of Dave's wound, the whole 9 yards. I skip the local sheriff and go straight to the district attorney. I sit down with him, lay out every piece, and well, for once, someone actually listens. The DA is no nonsense. He assigns his best investigator. And within days, they've subpoenaed the bank records, confirmed every dollar traced, every transfer. They find the guns too, Barbara and her buddies, all armed, all paranoid, just waiting for the walls to come crashing down. The raid itself was, let's just say, cinematic. HOA board meeting, all 3 crooks present the room full of neighbors, me and a state SWAT team waiting outside, radios crackling, hearts pounding. We breach the door, everything's fast and sharp and by the book. The residents freeze, jaws dropped as Barbara gets yanked off, her little podium cuffs slapped on. She tries to yell about her rights, about being president, but all I have to do is take off my helmet and look her in the eye. Not anymore, Barbara, I tell her, and she knows it's over. Detective Harding. The DA's lead walks in and lays out the evidence on poster boards, flow charts, bank records, pictures of Barbara smiling with her brother-in-law at a backyard barbecue. They play her 911 call and mine back to back, hers shrill and panicked, mine calm and professional. The truth is clear. The room turns. Neighbors who'd been afraid for years are suddenly furious. George stands up, voice shaking. They just stole our money. And he's right. Barbara's accomplices take plea deals, turn state's evidence. Barbara, stubborn as ever, tries her luck at trial. She gets 12 years. The whole story makes the news, her face on every channel, her name now local shorthand for corruption. Dave recovers well mostly. He'll always limp a bit, but his bills are paid, and that scar just means we have one hell of a story to laugh about someday. You'd think it'd end there, but the best part, the court puts the HOA into receivership. Cleans house, sells off Barbara's place to pay back the community. The folks here, well, at first nobody wanted to touch HOA business with a 10-foot pole. But someone had to help rebuild. So yeah, I stepped up with George, with Carol, with anybody who wanted real rules, not threats. We threw out the old bylaws, wrote new ones, simple, fair, built on respect, not fear. I even got elected president temporarily. I swear, just to help get things back on track. Life's funny that way. In the end, this wasn't just about a crooked HOA or a bad neighbor. It's about what happens when good people refuse to let bullies keep winning. See, power's only scary until you shine a little light on it. Turns out the strongest kingdoms are sometimes built on the weakest lies. And the best way to find peace isn't running from trouble, but standing up, calling it out, knocking it down stone by stone. So let me ask you, who's the Barbara in your life? What little truth are they most afraid of you finding out? Because once you pull that thread, you might just take down their whole castle. Leave a comment. Tell me your story. Let's see if together we can put a few more bullies out of business for good.